Blues exposed yet again. The Brownlow medalist with the yips and the most scathing assessment from a coach you'll see this year. Hello and welcome to the round so far. Brought to you by AAMI. Kane Corns, we've got a start at the MCG. The D's 6-0, and what a way to celebrate Nathan Jones' 300th game.
Yeah, the lid's off, and rightly so. This team now is good enough to win the Premiership. I think that we've got enough evidence to see that. They don't want for anything in their side. Backline is rock solid. Forward line's functioning well, as we're seeing here, with a couple of players still to come back in, and the midfield is flying with the best ruckman in the competition. And this was where it was done in the second quarter. Richmond challenged them early. They came at them hard. They wanted to make a statement. Their pressure was up. And Melbourne started slowly. So the pleasing thing was they're able to work their way into this game. In the second quarter, plus 12 in contested possessions. They dominated possession of the footy, had 50-odd more disposals in that second term. And that was when they got themselves back into the game.
Richmond only kicked 3 goals after quarter time. And a big part of it was due to this man. Our Saturday star, Christian Petrarca, came. Talk to us about his night.
Yeah, it could have been Christian Salem as well. They had a lot of good players, but I just want you to look at his centre of gravity and how he never falls over, and also his cleanliness. So the best players in the game are just so clean. They don't fumble. I think his ball use has got better. He gets his possessions in dangerous spots, and look, he's challenging Martin and Bontempelli to be the best player in the competition. That's how much he has grown in the last 18 months, and then his ability to do that and go forward. His possessions are won in dangerous positions on the ground, like Martin, like Bontempelli, and he had a big night. All the talk was Martin versus Petrarca. We'll get to Martin shortly, but he was the best player on the ground, and what a season he's having. 38
touches. You mentioned those dangerous possessions. 11 of them were score involvements. Can he push Bont and Dusty for 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's getting to that level now. And I mean, it's much easier to play in a winning side, and he's well supported, he's well surrounded, but he's a team player as well. That's what I've loved about Melbourne this year. Clearly, there's been a shift from the individual to the team. Yes, he's still getting the numbers, but he's getting the recognition of that team environment around him, and they got some good role players doing their job as well. Their midfield was just so tough tonight. I thought Viney was exceptional. Oliver's just putting together an All-Australian year, and Petrarca and Gawn are dominating as well.
In those 6 wins are both grand finalists now, Geelong and Richmond from last year, and they go under the Tigers' skin at times tonight. Have a look at this moment late in the game. The game's pretty much done here. Ryan Mansell and Cozzy Pickett, and it sort of created a bit of a blue from here.
Yeah, it was late, and you could tell that Richmond were frustrated. I think that's maybe one chink in Richmond's armour, is they have been undisciplined over the journey, and they've had issues at the tribunal and issues with 50-metre penalties and free kicks against. They'll give another one away here to Clayton Oliver, who hits the deck and has a shot at goal and misses. Cozzy Pickett, they love him, and rightly so. Just the difference he's made in energy, excitement, enthusiasm around the group. Got to be a little bit careful, though, pointing to the scoreboard and things like that. That is a triple premiership side you are mocking late in the game. Now, they'll meet again probably in the finals at some stage. Richmond have long memories. They'll be back. Just got to be a bit humble with the way they're going about it. Melbourne have achieved nothing yet. Richmond have.
Well, Richmond have shown us in the last 3 or 4 years they don't lose to the same team twice in a season, so they might keep that in their memory banks. They're 3-3 now. The Tigers have got the Dogs and Geelong to come in the next couple of weeks. Dusty Martin was quiet tonight. Kane, they're going to be without him for that game against the Dogs.
Well, he was frustrated as well. Now, this is sort of towards the start of the third quarter. He then goes off because of this. Now, he's been diagnosed with concussion, was ruled out of the game, meaning he'll miss that one, as you say. They're saying he's got a sore foot as well, so might be a good opportunity to give him a rest. Career low disposals with 8. Love that they sent Hibberd to him. Hibberd said that he had the job on Wednesday. He knew it. He planned for it. He was disciplined with it, and he's one of those players that's really strong and disciplined. Did a great job, and it's amazing more teams don't go after Dustin Martin like Melbourne did tonight. So well done to Simon Goodwin. We criticise him when things go wrong.
You said teams were spooked at the start of the year.
Well, they are. They're spooked by it. So it's good to see teams come in with a plan, and he is human. You can stop him if you have a plan and a disciplined opponent that's willing to sacrifice his game.
Kane Lambert in that shot as well. He did his calf tonight. Dion Prestia, another calf injury during the week. So they're losing a few soldiers now at the Tigers. Just quickly on the Ds, Wiedemann and Ben Brown to come back in. It's going to be hard. They've got an easy run over the next 4 weeks. North Melbourne, Sydney, Carlton and Adelaide.
Don't need to play him. Didn't need to play him tonight. And if they didn't play him in the big game at the MCG against the reigning Premier, then you don't play them next week on the back of the way that the side's functioning. There'll be injuries pop up. and they'll eventually bang the door down with their performances in the VFL. But right now, it's a good position to be in.
Down the highway, Geelong, 97-point winners. That's right, 97 points over West Coast. Kane, they did it with 10 goals in the second quarter.
Yeah, what a performance. They just got the momentum in that second quarter and they just completely ran away with it. It's a scary place to play footy. There's nothing like it. It's like that tidal wave is coming towards you and you can do nothing to stop it. Great to see Jeremy Cameron in. I love this ball use. Like, this is on the ground against West Coast. Doesn't have to be pretty. Doesn't have to be in the air. West Coast defence were all at sea. And I just thought the way that it functioned, with Gary Rowan in particular getting that third option, he may go under the radar, but Jeremy Cameron seamlessly slid into that forward line. Hawkins is such a team player, and then you get midfielders like this doing bombs on the half-time siren. Mitch Duncan kicked 4. He was the best player on the ground. I said you can't judge Geelong until we get Cameron back in and some others, and then they play a lot of games at home. So it was far too early for anyone who was writing off Geelong prior to this. They're in it now. They've knocked off a good opponent in a big, big way. What a statement it was from them. It was an emphatic performance, really impressive.
And they're 4-2. All of a sudden, the Cats. It was the Eagles' biggest loss out of Adam Simpson, their biggest loss since 2009. And Kane, this is as strong a take as you'll hear from a coach in 2021.
I think you can question our effort. You can, which is, that's really disappointing. So I think there's stages in games and from experience where you get a bit of a glazed look over your face. You don't really know what to do, and that's my job. It's our coach's job to try and realign it and reset it. And we couldn't find a way to get our guys mentally back in the game, but physically, we looked weak. Coaches
don't use that word very often.
Weak and embarrassing. Yeah, really strong. He's as honest as they get. I really love the way that he goes about it. That's what I want to hear if I'm an Eagles fan, because that's what I saw on the screen. Was players that didn't put in physically, weren't trying to do anything to shift the momentum of the game. Yes, they got a lot of good players out, but I'm just not sure these good players are coming back, because Shuey's missed a lot of footy. Yo's hardly played. Kennedy's getting 30 plus with the miles in his legs is huge. I think this is the Eagles' last chance to make a run at it before they're going to have a mini reset and get some youth in. Gave up a lot for Tim Kelly, salary cap's bursting. Last run this year, if it doesn't work, you're going to have to go to the draft, and they just can't win away from home, the Eagles.
And they can add Jeremy McGovern to that list of injuries and a ductor for him. Kane, what about their ruckman? You were strong on him during the week. Nick Naitanui, again, no marks. What about this bit of vision with Reece Stanley exposing him?
Yeah, not only is he not doing enough around the ground, All-Australian last year, he was such a weapon for them. I'm not sure he's fit enough this year, Nick Naitanui. You just watch him, he's just hovering around there. That's his direct opponent, who has a big tank, Stanley, and he gets off him, gets the mismatch forward, and marks the ball inside 50 and goes back and kicks a long goal, while Naitanui is just sort of hanging around the middle, and then he throws his arms up blaming someone else. But he's taken 7 marks for the year. Did not take a mark tonight. As good as he is with the tap work, I think the opposition teams are starting to scout that a little bit better. We saw that with St Kilda a couple of weeks ago, and he had 4 effective disposals, Nick Naitanui, which just isn't good enough for a player of his athletic ability. Now, we've been talking about it for years, so he's 30, 31 years of age. I'm not sure he's ever going to get that in his game, but he's got to be better than 7 marks for the year.
And a big game for Reece Stanley, who had been out of form in the first month of the season. You spoke about that 3-pronged attack. We're going to take a look behind the goals, Kane, and how this worked. Talk to us about what's happening here and the distance they're giving each other.
Yeah, I just love the first game in for Cameron. You think, well, are they going to get in each other's road? How disciplined they are to keep that sort of 20-metre triangle. They set up a triangle forward of the ball to make sure that the West Coast opponents can't come off their opponent and help out in the air. There's that enough gap in between and enough separation to have the West Coast Eagles defenders confused. And then Rowan gets off Shepherd here. He did this a couple of times and takes a good contested mark at the top of the goal square, and then Hawkins gets this one out the back. So Rowan, Hawkins, Cameron didn't have massive nights, massive days, but in the end all made a strong contribution, and that's all they'll be asking for.
2 goals for Jeremy Cameron in his first game as a Cat. To Marvel Stadium next, not even 6 goals for Harry Mackay. Could do the job for the Blues, Kane. We're going to take a look at some of their lapses. This was a procession for the Lions.
I thought it was just an outstanding performance from Brisbane. A tough, a hard performance away from home under significant adversity. They had probably 4 or 5 players that were sore, and one of them was Lachie Neale. Mitch Robinson had to get patched up. Hipwood had a corky. They just had players going down left, right and centre. So for them to do this, on the back of what is pretty ordinary work rate from Carlton. I mean, how many times for the year and in the last 20 years are we going to have to see this before we actually see a change in culture at the Carlton Footy Club? But I don't necessarily want to focus on Carlton because they are becoming a little bit irrelevant. I want to focus on the strong performance from Brisbane today. This is training drill stuff.
Just this one here before we get to the Lions. This starts back pocket from a turnover. They don't lay a glove on them here, Carlton.
Not one touch on a Brisbane opponent, even players slipping over, and then you end up with the mark all alone inside 50 to Jared Lyons. Like, how easy is this for Carlton? So David Teague will spin it. He'll be positive. He'll point to a reasonably even inside 50 count. It's all rubbish. Carlton needed to make a statement in the last 2 weeks against good sides, and they were found wanting again, particularly with Brisbane under the weather with those players injured I mentioned.
Hugh McCluggage is having a fantastic start to the season. His skipper, Dane Zorko as well, Kane, they were among their best players.
Hugh McCluggage is just such a good player. And when we say about Christian Petrarca getting his possessions in dangerous spots, this is what McCluggage does. He gets the ball right there in dangerous spots. And look at that kick to advantage. That's where Danaher wants it as a forward. So started as a wingman, spending more time inside, makes really good decisions, and he's one of the better kicks inside 50. He's a goal kicker, and he's young. He's re-signed at the Lions. I would have thought there would have been a number of Victorian clubs keen to get him. And then Zorko, he's a four-time. He's done it all, but wouldn't he love to be a premiership skipper as well? I think he plays a selfless role. He's happy to go forward. He's happy to go in the midfield. He's really strong defensively. He can lift his team with big defensive acts, as we saw today. So they were two real standouts. And as I said, I just thought it was an exceptionally tough Brisbane side, and that's how you earn respect in the competition.
And when the Blues were coming a little bit in that third quarter, Zorko stood up with 4 clearances. So that shows how important he was today. Lachie Neale, you spoke about. Tough day at the office for him, firstly with his ankle injury in the first quarter.
Yeah, this was a bit of a nasty one, and he couldn't put any weight on it as he's getting up here. He sort of hung around there and he stayed on the ground for a while, but eventually went down. I would imagine he had that re-strapped or had some pain-killing injection into that. He came back on, wasn't comfortable kicking at all, got a head knock here, and this is the one you want to talk about. Yeah,
so we touched the umpire here. We know players have been given week suspension in recent seasons for touching the umpire. There is an update to the rule that says that if a player touches an umpire that's in aggressive, forceful, demonstrative or disrespectful nature, it's a week. For a fine, it's unreasonable or unnecessary. It's probably more in the latter, but it is a fine line for a Brownlow medalist.
Unnecessary, I would have thought. It was the back of the hand. I'd hate to see a Brownlow medalist miss a game for that. He was just, as you said after the game, trying to alert him to the fact that he was bleeding, and it was just a tap. Maybe a fine, but not much more you'd hope.
In the West, next, North Melbourne, their worst start to a season since 1972. It was done in front of no fans. Kane, the Dockers are up and about, 4-2 for them. And Dave Mundy, what a season he's having.
Oh, he is. He's been All-Australian once back in 2015, which seems like a long time away. He'll be All-Australian again this year if he keeps sort of 3/4 of this form up. 30 disposals, 3 goals, does it all. Remember 2 or 3 years ago, they sent him to the half-forward flank, which is almost the footballer's graveyard as you're coming towards the back end of your career. Well, didn't he inject himself back in the midfield? The good teams have 3, 4, 5 good midfielders. And to see Fife, Mundy, Sarong, Brayshaw dominate tonight points to a very good foundation for a good side.
All of those guys had 30 or more, Nat Fife among them. And we want to talk about his goal kicking though, Kane. He's kicked now 1 goal 12 for the season, 6 behinds. Last one he played at the venue. He can't hit the side of the barn at the moment.
0 goals 4, and it's clearly in his head because Nat Fife doesn't do this. I mean, some players do. Harry Mackay does it and does it naturally. Castagna does it for Richmond. Fife doesn't. Never been a great kick. Like for a star player, for an AFL Hall of Famer eventually, he's never been a good finisher, but 0 goals 6, 0 goals 4 tonight and 1-12 for the year. Is inside his head. How does he shake that off? Well, I guess he gets to work. We know he put the work in, but until he gets out there in those big moments, he needs to overcome that himself.
The Roos are losing cattle everywhere. Their worst start to the season in almost 50 years. Jai Simpkin, the frustration's getting to one of the Roos' better players.
I didn't like this. Just did not like this at all. So this will cost him a week or 2, I reckon. Massive roundhouse, and we'll get another look at it. No need for that, I would have thought.
Tough season coming up for the Roos. Time to get to our AAMI clangers now, Kane. We'll start with Dom Sheed down the highway. Sorry, no, we won't. We'll start with Nick Blakey here at Metricon Stadium. The posts are thick at this ground.
Hard to do that. Hard to hit both posts. And I reckon Nan Curvis did it as well. He did. Both posts in one round. So unbelievable stuff there. Dom Sheed's been on fire. Well, not today.
Look at the score here. He's got the chance to put his team 2 goals up in the first quarter. Plays on. The Pies fans would have liked that one a few years ago.
Yes, that would have been nice. But against Collingwood, he doesn't do it, just against Geelong. And then this one, Liam Stocker back in for the Blues.
That's gone through post-hype.
And he's kicked a sausage roll for Brisbane.
That's the worst clanger of the year.
Unfortunately for Liam.
And just quickly, we'll get to the MCG next. Bridget McIntyre presenting the medal for the best on ground tonight. Going to the Demons' best player. She held her composure pretty well here through an AAMI clanger.
Would you please join me? Well, I actually don't know who the winner is. I think I need to know the winner. Oh, it's Petrarca! Christian Petrarca!
The
inaugural Checker Hughes medal there for Christian Petrarca.
They'll make a meme out of that, Mitch. the kids will tell you they'll make a meme out of that. It's Petrarca.
He might win a Norm Smith this year as well, at the way.
Well, and a Brownlow.
Yeah, he's going. You might hear his name a few more times. To get to Metricon Stadium next, we just showed Nick Blakey's miss. This was one-way traffic, Kane, and despite the Suns going in without a ruckman, they won the clearances.
Yeah, they got Burgess and Graham rucking for them, and the hit-out's unbelievably 76-20, yet the Suns win the clearances by 3, 44-41. I thought they were electric today, the Suns, and you don't often see this. So both offensively, they were unbelievable. King will get to, he kicked 5. Their star young players all stood up and had a big impact, and you think, well, gee, this side could be anything. Where has this been? Where's the ball movement been? Look at the work through stoppages. All players on the move. Rankin didn't get it. Miller had 16 disposals in the first quarter. He set them up. King was a star in the forward line with 5 goals. So offensively, they were terrific. But what stood out to me was it was the best tackling performance I've ever seen from a Gold Coast Suns side.
And you mentioned Isaac Rankin, his best performance probably in 12 months for the club. How about these numbers in the tackling wise? And we questioned them last week with their defensive effort. They brought it definitely today.
Yeah, they've been nowhere at all, to the point where we called them relevant last week. They had 79 tackles today in good conditions. It wasn't if it was wet and slippery conditions with lots of stoppages. 21 of those came inside 50. They out-tackled Sydney, even though they had more disposals than them. So some of these are better than just your average tackle where you wrap a player up with both arms. These are run-down tackles. This is hunting. This is physicality. This is trying to hurt your opposition. Bang. Holman had 13. As I said, a physically imposing performance from a Gold Coast Suns side who was hungry. I just question where that effort has been for the first 5 weeks of the season. What a waste it was when you know they're capable of doing that.
The Dogs, Kane, 6-0, their win over the Giants in Canberra. Jack McRae, 40 disposals. It did come at a cost here, the first of 3 injuries to Lin Jong.
Yeah, Lin Jong just can't take a trick. First game back in for a while. Did that hammy, saw Dunkley pop his shoulder out a couple of times late. And they are nasty. Reconstruction would mean he'd miss the rest of the season. A bit of friendly fire there with Tim English, who's been cleared of a jaw injury, but clearly concussed and will at least miss that 12 days that he needs to.
He's going to be a bit of a loss for that game next week against Richmond. It could pave the way, though, for the Dogs to turn to their #1 draft pick, Jamara Ugle-Hagan. 5 goals in the VFL, Kane. Surely it's time now.
It may be time. It may be, with English out. They've made him earn it, and I like that.
Yep.
Because they don't think he has had a big enough pre-season, hasn't been working hard enough, and the anti-density rules have sort of skewed the stats a little bit in the VFL, but he's talented. The Bulldogs fans would love to see it. Whether it's this week or in a week or two, it won't be too far away.
Big game against Richmond, MCG. You'd love to see it, and Josh Bruce could probably go into the ruck as well. To the rest of the round, Kane, interesting selections here. Tom Lynch left out for the Crows. 8 changes across the Pies and the Bombers for Anzac Day. Yeah,
Collingwood smashed by injury. You'd think they'd still be too good and have enough class to get over Essendon. That game against Hawthorn and the Crows is interesting for me in Tassie. Not sure which way that'll go. And Port Adelaide have a debutant in Frederick, who's an excitement machine. Looking forward to seeing him in action.
And Marshall and Jones back for the Saints. To our one more thing, Kane. Pretty rare you get to see this on a football field. No fans tonight at Optus Stadium. The Roos warming up with masks on, and the Dockers.
Yeah, strange one. They've all returned negative tests. They're out in the open. They're social distancing. Not sure they need masks. But anyway, an abundance of caution.
Roos D's next week, meant to be down in Tassie, could get moved due to the strict government rules down there. We'll wait and see where we are this time next week here on The Round So Far. Kane, thanks for that.
Good on you, mate. See you next week.